Hi, I'm Mandi Feely-Swain, and this is another episode of Origination Boost Podcast. And today my guest is Katie Pastor Trinidad. Did I say that all right? I have two last names too, so I feel you. I vibe with you. How are you today? Are you doing good?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to share whatever it is that we want to talk about. So yeah, thanks again for the invite and allowing me to be here.
Well, getting your schedule and my schedule aligned took a bit of a trick because Katie is very busy. She's a top originator and crushes life. And we were chatting over the phone before we had the episode, and she shared with me what a year 2025 had been. And I was saying that her mindset and her will just to move forward is why she continued to be a top producer, even through personal, tragedy in your life. And so we'll catch up to that in a minute, but let's start with where you started in the business. Like, how did you trip into it? Lots of people trip into the mortgage business. It's not like they grew up and they were like in third grade and they're like, I'm going to be a loan officer.
Yeah.
That's not really how it works. So tell us about your journey.
Yeah. So I studied finance. I studied finance in college, and I actually worked for a big bank in college, and got promoted, through the different channels and loved it. I loved my career, and I thought I would stay there for a really long time, and I did. And then there were some restructure things happening within the company, and they gave me a couple different options. One was to, manage a banking center or to go into mortgage. And at that time, I just decided, hey, I've been doing this for so long. I want to step back and do something that's just a little bit more fulfilling for my soul. So I stepped away and I started my own business. And I did that at the right time. It was 2008. And it was great. I loved it.
She says that with italics, like I did it at the right time, right?
I did it. Yeah. It was a great time for me to step out of the mortgage business. And working in a branch for a big bank at the time was brutal, right? Because we had people coming in asking about modifications. They couldn't make their mortgage payments. I mean, it was hard. It was really hard on me just as a human, seeing people with their struggles. So anyway, I stepped away, set up my own business, grew that business, loved it, and then just realized that it just wasn't fulfilling like lending is. So I came back into the business, and I went back to work for the same bank that I was with before. Was there for about 2 years, and then I met my husband, and he owned a mortgage bank basically. And so, just coincidentally, I happened to be in the business. And at the time when I was transitioning from the bank, so it was when it was very busy with refinances. I think interest rates were in the 5% range. That was like a really big deal. And so we had a lot of people refinancing, and that was my business. I was 100% refinance business working for a bank, and it was taking us 9 months to close a transaction. So that was awesome. Yeah.
That was super fun.
Yeah. And they were really hammering us on go out and find purchase business. And I thought, there is no way I'm going to build a relationship with a realtor knowing that we are closing transactions in 9 months. I can't do that. I'm not going to put my reputation on the line. I just don't want to be that person. So anyway, that's when I aligned myself with my current company and also met my husband at the same time. Because I didn't want to come into his culture while we were dating, I actually ended up staying with the bank for a little bit longer until we could, come into the culture without me being that, girlfriend that's now working for the business. So it took some time for sure for me to transition over. But even if it wasn't my husband and his company, I knew at that time that I wanted to do something bigger in people's lives, meaning I don't want to necessarily see them get a lower interest rate, save money every month, consolidate debt, whatever. I want to be part of something bigger. Like I want to be involved with, I just found our dream home. We weren't expecting that. We weren't expecting to find our dream home because we weren't even looking, right? We get those stories probably every week, but I wanted to be part of that. I wanted to be part of that feeling for people and being instrumental in making everything come together, right? kind of being that glue between the realtor, between the client, and making that transaction come together. And I was very clear on I wanted it to be different than the rest of the industry, right? Because the rest of the industry, I feel like sometimes, and even now, although I think it's changed over the last decade, um, things are done a certain way. And it's just kind of, here's your loan, and here's the financing, and it's a 30-year fixed, and here it is, right? I just knew I wanted to create an experience for people. I wanted it to be so much more than here's your loan, right? I want to give you options. I want to educate you. I want this to be a really cool time for you. I want to celebrate with you. I want you to be proud of your accomplishments for getting to this point. So that's how I built my business. And that's, I think, how I attracted people. Because again, my philosophy was different than other loan officers in the industry. I started with a niche product. I wanted to work with down payment assistance, and I wanted to work with down payment assistance because there were 2 loan officers in our company. And while I was trying to build my purchase business, I had asked them, hey, tell me about down payment assistance. I want to learn. And they said, oh, we don't do them. We don't do them because we don't get paid as much. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I'm not necessarily in this for the money, right? So as soon as I had that conversation, and the more conversations I was having with people, don't get me wrong, there were certainly people that were doing it, but it was like more common for people to say they didn't work with these programs than for people to say, here's how they work, blah, blah, blah. I love them.
How they work, and I can help you and guide you. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So I saw that as an opportunity, and I just ran with it. So I built my business around, I cater to first-time home buyers and educating the consumer and educating realtor partners on what programs are available, how these programs work. So that's really how I started my business. And because of that and the relationships that I built, I have been able to grow my business.
Yeah, and you're in California, and so there are a lot of opportunities for down payment assistance.
Yeah.
And a lot of nuances to it. I mean, I think that there's, I can't, off the top of my head, I can think of 3 or 4 different programs there in California that are kind of mainstays, and then they have offshoots to them that are definitely nuanced, but they do help a lot of home buyers get into homes. And that's kind of a misconception, especially if you're a first-time buyer, that they need all this down payment, or they need perfect credit, or they need a lot of credit. And so you educating them and really guiding them put a good foundation. And now you fast forward in your career, and I'm sure that those clients that you helped back at, in that time, now fast forward, they're buying their second homes, or they are referring their children, or whatever, right? Are you seeing that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I knew, I guess intuitively, this, when you help somebody and you help create that opportunity in helping someone realize their dream, right? It's not about the money, right? It's about that inspiring that person to do something that they want so bad. And it just intuitively, I knew they were going to be coming back to me with their friends and their family. And if I was able to make this possible for them, how can you not refer me people, right? So, that is certainly, that has been a byproduct of this. I have one client who, oh gosh, it's like such a story, right? They started out, they didn't have high enough credit scores to qualify. I worked with them over 9 months. We got into that position. We got down payment assistance, one of the city programs. We refinanced. I think they're on their fourth home, and probably their 7th transaction with me. And they have referred their kids, their people from their church. I mean, just so many people. So yeah, I have been very fortunate with the relationships that I've built. And I really think it's because I had that niche product. And I really went after creating opportunity for those people.
Well, and one thing that my husband's always told me, my husband and I also work in the mortgage space together, as you know, and he's always said, loans get loans. And so if you do the right thing for people and you do it with a heart of service, I found that in my career that they become shining star referral partners for you out there with their family and friends, right? When they think of mortgage, they think of Katie. Katie's great. She helped me when nobody else would. She helped me find a solution when nobody else would.
Yeah.
And they become great referral sources
Yeah.
because they're talking about you because and not because you asked them to, but because you're a servant to them, and then as a result, it comes full circle. At least that's what I found in my career: is do the right thing on the first time, every time, that it serves you well. And it sounds like that's how you built your career.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now you broaden that, obviously, and your big business comes from database and real estate partners and other referral sources, or is that your main two streams of your business?
Yeah. It's interesting too, because when I started my purchase business, I thought everyone's going after realtors and I want to be different. So I'm not going to work with realtors. Joke's on me. That is all my business. It's all realtor business. And I think it's because they're some of my best friends. I've built such a good connection and such strong relationships with a lot of my business partners that I can't imagine not doing business with realtors. So primarily realtor relationships is how I get my business. I'm actually so my team's growing, and I'm going to be bringing on a couple other loan officers to create opportunities in some different areas, right? Because there's so many different areas to get business. Obviously, builder business, CPAs, financial advisors. There's so many different things that we can do. So I'm going to be bringing on a couple loan officers so that we can branch out and create opportunities there too.
Absolutely. Well, and you're mainly in Northern California. Is that primary? Like for me in Idaho, I know I have my license in like 40 states, but most of my business comes out of, Southwest Idaho. How's your business look for you?
Yeah, same. Yeah, it's mostly Northern California, really Placer County. And then you've got those clients that are moving out of state, the clients that you've helped, you've built that relationship and you have their trust and they want to be able to use you, when they're moving to Texas. And, over the last 5-6 years, we've seen a lot of that. But yeah, primarily I'm California.
Yeah, I've done a lot of loans for your friends there in California.
I bet you have. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I noticed on your Instagram page that you are also a licensed real estate agent. So how does that kind of work? Do you use that knowledge to represent on the loan side, or how does it, because California was one of those states that allowed both for the longest time and other states would not. And then there was always this back and forth of whether you could be or could not be, but California kind of led the way on that subject.
Yeah, I don't do anything on the real estate side. I actually have to have it because of the structure with our company. So, I don't do anything, and I will always choose not to double dip. I just don't like that. I don't like the way that would feel for a consumer. So I want to stick with one thing and I want to be really good at that thing, right? So I'm staying on this side. I love the financing side of it. The real estate is just kind of in the background.
Yeah. Well, and I think some businesses need to have both because California is interesting that way. So yes, I'm with you. I can only do one job and do it really well. So what do you think outside of first-time home buyers? What advice would you give that's kind of catapulted you for success? I mean, $4 or $5 million a month. Let's talk about that. What you feel like outside of that niche of a mortgage product has launched your success to where you're at today.
Yeah, I think it's just the connection, right? The connection that I've been able to make with other realtor partners. Maybe by design, I would say the majority of my relationships are with females. Just because we can have a different kind of relationship, right? So, and again, most of them are my very close, some of my very best friends. So I think that's just it, right? I pour into their business and in return, they're giving back to me. So we have to remember we're in the relationship business. We're not in finance. We're not in selling anything. We are in relationship with whoever it is that we're working with, whether it be a buyer, whether it be a funder, whether it be the doctor, the realtor, whoever. It is a relationship business. It's not anything else. So again, just really pouring into those relationships, almost like you would with your kids or your spouse or whatever, right? And the more you pour into them, the more you're going to get in return. Another big thing that I did pretty consistently. I took some time off just because last year was a really rough year. I did a lot of I call them lunch and learns, and I know that is kind of an outdated term that we would use. But it's really just, you can call it a mastermind, right? Bringing a group of people together, mostly realtors, bringing them together and teaching them. I remember I did so many on a 2-1 buy down. What is 2-1 buy down? Because we hadn't been seeing them for many years, right?
That was not something we were doing.
Nope.
And
even though it had been around forever.
We went, how do we solve problems of affordability, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But down payment assistance masterminds, 2-1 buy down. What's the difference between a 2-1 buy down and a permanent rate buy down? What are we seeing in the current market? What are appraisers looking for? And where's the market headed? Masterminds about your mind and having the right mindset of growing business. And what I found with doing that was, yes, I can be the topic, meaning I can talk about these different strategies and kind of where interest rates are headed and where they're at. But where the connection was the other realtors. It didn't matter what company they were with, they were connecting with each other. And that's what I loved, was creating that space, because they can all connect, they can build friendship, they can share their struggles, they can share their wins with each other. And so that, I really felt like I created community, and that felt very good to me. So whether it was the information that I was sharing, that didn't really matter, but it was the connection in the room that I think had people talking. I actually had some people, and I did my masterminds, and I'll get back to them here pretty soon. But I did mine a little bit differently than maybe some people would. So some people would throw out an invite. Hey, I want anybody and everybody, and come join us, right? Mine, I was very selective. It was only for realtor partners who were working with me, because it's a value add, right? So because you give me your business, I'm going to pour into you, and here's some value. And I would have some people saying basically, like, how do I get an invite? How do I come? So that was great. So I created some relationships out of that. And again, because of the connection that I was able to
bringing to you to build relationships versus outbound trying to build those relationships. So added value, people start talking and they network amongst themselves, and that's doing the work for you, which is helpful. So you're not cold calling agents, right?
Yes. Yeah. Never have I ever picked up the phone to cold call an agent. I remember, and I don't even know if this is still a thing, but I remember I was just hearing from other loan officers and hearing coaches say, you've got to call 10 people and get, we call them break breads, right? You need to have X amount of coffee appointments a day and a week, and to break breads. And I'm like, it's not going to work for me. I'm not picking up the phone. They don't want to hear from me. I cringe when I think about, I'm going to cold call this person to see if they want to get together with coffee for me. Who's going to want to do that? Right. So I just, and it works for some people. I just know my personality, it doesn't work for me. And so, again, kind of thinking outside the box of how can I create these opportunities to connect with people? It's not going to be over that coffee that I, basically
was dreading anyway, the call you were dreading to make, the coffee appointment you're dreading to make with the stranger that you don't know anything about. Yes. For you, it's all about the connection. And if you can connect with them and they connect with you, you know that you're like-minded and you want to be a part of their business. And then in turn, you would, if you do the right things, what you've seen is they want to be part of your business, right?
Yeah. You got it. Yeah.
And so when you've built this kind of mastermind community, are you asking them for their needs and wants, or how are you getting them to connect when they get to this?
Yeah. So I get them to connect with each other. That's probably the easiest part, right? Because It's not a presentation necessarily. It's more of a roundtable, right? So we all get together in a room and it's very conversational with everybody. And when people open up and they're sharing, they're connecting, right?
Right.
So yeah, that just happens kind of organically. I haven't necessarily, had a mastermind where I'm like, okay, get up, share, you have 3 minutes to share about yourself, nothing like that, right? It just, again, just happens. And it's pretty cool because I've seen where people, maybe they didn't have an opportunity to connect with somebody in the room at the time, but then they know who they are and they follow them on social media. They connect that way. Once they realize, hey, I do like this person, right? They build that relationship outside. So yeah, it's also cool too, because I'm starting to see some of these relationships where I've brought them all together and now they're creating like these really great friendships outside of business too. So yeah, I think that feels very, very good about business.
Yes. So you're really good at loans, you're good at the financial, you're good at the banking side of it, but you're also very good at the relationship and nurturing side of it. Which part is your favorite out of those two?
Oh yeah, yeah, by far the relationships. Yeah, yeah, that's what lights me up. And anytime I'm in conversation with my husband, he's asking, what is it that you love about the business? One thing I'll never give up is building the relationships, whether it be with the client, whether it be with the realtor. I love to be in the business because I love to do consults with buyers. I love to get creative and structure different ways that people may not be thinking about. So I love that piece too. But I would say that it's a relationship piece, whether it be, again, with that referral partner or with that consumer. That's what lights me up.
Yeah, I just had an example of that I had someone come to me and they said, Mandy, my son is going to buy this house and I'm going to give him X amount of dollars. And they happen to be the real estate agent on the house. And then the builder's going to give them this much. And they were a veteran. And they said, well, they really want to buy down their interest rate. And I said, I can take this $25,000 and I can buy out the interest rate. Or we can take this $25,000, we can take 15 of it and pay down the debt that saves him $600 a month, where my buying down that interest rate maybe saves him $200 or $300 net effect. We can do this. And I think that that's the fun part of the business, right? You can kind of look at things through a different lens than versus just the transaction.
Yeah.
You can really help people his debt to income ratio on the front end was like a 23. It wasn't the housing that was freaking him out. It was the total debt that was freaking him out. Right.
Yeah.
And so if we can get the total debt down, then by all means, his overall payment and stress of this new home, because it was higher than what he was paying in rent, goes down. And so they love that idea. And nobody had ever, this agent has been in the business a long, long time. And she said, I had no idea you could do this. And so to me, it's the puzzle piece of really looking at each transaction and figuring out how we can help people enrich their lives, better their lives, take stress out of the mix of buying a home. And so in that example, I think that that's exactly what you do on the daily. That's what you love about the business. And that's what I love, the puzzle of the business and figuring out how to help people get into homes with a payment that they can reasonably afford and still live and not eat top ramen or whatever. Granted, I like top ramen still, even though that was a thing. But anyway, I think that that's the most fun part of the business for me as well. But I also love my relationships I have with my referral partners that become lifelong friends. And that makes a difference being a transactional loan officer that I've seen and having a career in this business. And I think that's what you're saying in every example you've given. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love what you just shared. And I think I'll say part of me, my ego loves knowing that strategy that you just recommended, you've got a realtor who's been in the business for so long who thinks, oh, I've never considered that, or I've never heard that, right? There's this ego in us that's like, I gave this information or I gave this education to somebody, they didn't even know it, right? That's so rewarding. And it's so fulfilling sometimes because we were able to, I think through real estate, boy, it's not just a mortgage, right? It's not just a mortgage payment, but it's really, we look at the total financial picture. We really have a lot of power over what we're recommending and what we're suggesting. It can be powerful for people, right? Depending on how we structure these transactions. So yeah, that is certainly rewarding, very rewarding. And it's, again, goes back to the relationship piece.
Yeah, for sure. This last year, if you're willing to, I know that you had a struggle of a year,
Yeah.
and I still applaud you because your numbers wouldn't, from the outside angle, you wouldn't have known that you had a hell of a year, as
Thank
the
you.
Parker McCollum song goes, a
Yeah.
hell of a year, which you absolutely did. But I think that is the difference between top originators that can kind of learn to compartmentalize and work in the mortgage space,
Yeah.
and help people and put their own struggles aside and show up every day for others. And when my dad passed away in 2020, I know that work saved me. And so I was very grateful for my career in the mortgage space, because when my dad passed away, I think being very busy in the mortgage space freed my head of that grief that comes. But
Yeah.
what's your advice for originators that are maybe going through something personal like you did last year? Maybe you can touch on what happened and share.
Yeah. So I have a mother who struggled with dementia for about 7 years and ended up passing this past year. And I have a father who struggled with the Alzheimer's as well. And he dealt with that for about a good year. And he ended up passing last year as well. So I lost my mom and my dad in the same year, which was completely unexpected. My mom, obviously, her health declined. And my dad, it just came on, and it came on strong. It got so bad for my dad that his wife ended up leaving him when he was first diagnosed. And so I had to take conservatorship over him, and I had to make some really hard decisions, right? What are we going to do with this house? I have to navigate a divorce on his behalf. And so really big, challenging, heavy decisions that I had to make, in some waters that I had to kind of navigate through, that I had never been through this. And I certainly didn't think life could ever look this way. And at the same time, it's your parents, right? I mean, you have this, to be careful about this because I'm going to get emotional, but you don't picture it.
Yeah. Yes.
You don't think life is going to be like this, right? So to see them be in the state that they were in, it's hard on your heart. So I will say this. Many times I thought I could step away from my business, right? And I probably should, because
your husband would have supported that, and you could have done
100%.
that, and financially it would have been fine, and everything. These friends you've made over your career that are agents,
totally understand,
would have supported you and loved you through that, right?
Totally. Yeah. And like you said, through these hard things, you fall back on just powering through and getting through, and work was a good distraction. But I remember, I can remember so clearly, I was coming to a stoplight, and I remember thinking, ooh, I could take a step back. And then immediately I had the thought of, but would you be quitting, right? Would you be quitting on something that you've worked so hard to build and that has provided so much joy to your life, right? And so that was the only time I gave it thought about maybe stepping back and stepping away, because it was so clear to me that this is truly what I love doing, right? So yeah, again, it crossed my mind for about 3 seconds, and then
the light changed and you hit go.
Yeah. And then I stepped on the gas pedal, and I'm like, we're not doing this. So yeah, I think you just, you power through when you have work as a distraction. Was I my best self? Probably not, right? But I'm surrounded by a really strong team, and they fully supported me, and we powered through. Right before my dad passed, I actually had an LOA who decided to leave and support her husband's business. And that was challenging. But through that, I have my current LOA, and he's been such a blessing to me and my business. And so, navigated through a lot, knew I would never quit. And you also think, when you're going through something like that, is that something that somebody would want for you? Is that something that my parents would want for me? Absolutely, absolutely not, because they knew how much I loved doing what I do. Right. So you kind of have that in the back of your mind was, my parents would never want me to feel this way and to give up something that I love so much. So yeah, you just power through and make sure that you have the right people in your corner always. Right. Because you never know what life's going to hand you.
Well, I think if I had a message when LOs and life happens, right? This business there's not a work-life balance. There's just a balance, right?
Yeah.
There's a dance, and you have this dance, right? And the dance can pull you away in different aspects of your life, whether it's too much work or too much life, it can happen. And I think that when you go through those challenges, and I talk about that in my book, I say you've got to give yourself some grace and love, because you're not going to be your best self, because you have these things happening. And if you don't want to quit, I was telling my kids, I think I'm going to fire myself. And my kids are like, Mom, then basically you're just quitting. I'm like, yes, I do want to quit today. There are days, friends, that you are going to feel like that, like Katie did at that stoplight, and think, I need to pull back. I need to take a break. I'm pulled in so many directions, and show yourself grace and step on the gas like she did and move forward. And I think that that's so key. And a friend of mine, she said it so eloquently, and I will try to do my best, but she said, life is like a dark piece of glass. And when that glass breaks, that's how the light comes through. And if you keep filling in the glass, you're never going to get the light that comes through after darkness. And I think that you brought up something so important, that your parents would not have wanted you to give up something that you love so much. And it also helps you probably seize the day more than you maybe did before you lost your parents. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think too, full transparency, I did some deep therapy work, not knowing how grief affects people, right? I've never been through something like this, and I was hit hard. And so through my grief therapy, boy, that really saved me, right? Saved me. And also I was able to come back to myself rather than being caught up in those emotions and those feelings and everything. So yeah, you have to find the support that you need. The other thing too is, when you think about, I could step away and I could take some time off. If you stop and think about what's on the other side of that, and you put yourself there, oh boy, no, thank you. That doesn't sound like something that I would want, right? What am I going to do? Sit in my grief every single day and feel sorry for myself? Ew, no. I want to go out. I want to continue to, pursue my goals and my dreams. And that feels better rather than quitting. Even if I were to come back, right? I don't want to sit in that. Yeah.
Yes. So through that, and through having having a transition on your team, which is always definitely a interesting time when you move, when people get released to the universe, as I say, and you bring new humans into your world, into your space, into your business. And it is a little bit interesting when you bring new people into your business, because if they haven't been in the mortgage space, there's that learning curve, but then there's also learning how you work, right? And be a good partner to you and your business. And I think when you and I spoke, your newest LOA, he really has been a blessing to you, because he's really helped fill some of the gaps in your business, and that's been good. So sometimes loss is gain, because you didn't, not that you didn't love your old assistant, but now you have somebody on your team that maybe is fitting this season of your business. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, completely. Yeah. And I commend him, because
how did somebody find somebody? How did you vet this person? What was the characteristics you were looking for?
Yeah, I've been looking to add to my team now for the past, I'm gonna say about 5 months. I've been looking for somebody else, and that's taking a little bit longer because I'm really specific on what it is that I want to find. What I have found is I like somebody, and this has been true, gosh, almost for every LOA that I've had. I don't want somebody that's coming from the business. I would prefer somebody who's new to the business, because I don't have to untrain them, right? Untrain them because I get to train them and educate them on how I want my business to look. So that has been really helpful for me is I don't care if you don't have any experience. I prefer that you don't, because you're going to slide right into the way that works for me and my team. So yeah, I think that's been helpful is, not looking for somebody that's already in the business. The two people that I've had most recently, actually, my husband has found them and he's hired them for different positions within the company. My last LOA, she was actually hired as a receptionist, and then 2020 hit, and that didn't last long because I needed help right away. And then my current LOA, he was actually hired within our company doing a completely different role. And then my husband suggested that he consider my team. And I'm going to brag on him for just a second. So passing our NMLS test can be challenging for some people, right? Some people need to take it multiple times, and I took it so long I can't even remember it. But he passed on his first try, which was, obviously a really big
That's a big
deal.
deal. That's a big
Yeah.
deal. That test is no small feat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's pretty cool because he was so new to the business. And he had been with me on my team for about 4 months. And at the beginning of the year, I said, "Hey, tell me about your goals and what do you want?" Right. And he says, "I want to own a home." And so I said, "Okay, this is what needs to happen, right? You need to earn a salary and blah, blah, blah." And we built it, and he bought his house 2 months later. And
Oh,
so it's just, yeah, it's a really cool relationship. I'm to a point where I get so many compliments about him that I now have to tell my clients, "Hey, don't try and recruit him," right?
yeah.
Because yeah, back off, people,
Yeah.
because
He's my
he's
guy.
just so,
He's my guy.
yeah, he's so good. So yeah, and the point of me sharing this with you is because sometimes I think we get caught up in what kind of experience do you have? I want somebody with a lot of experience. I would recommend that you be open to maybe changing your thinking around that. Um, and then the other thing too, right? The more you pour into them, the more they're going to pour into your business. And yeah, it's just, yeah, having the right teammates is everything for a high producing loan originator.
So, a couple takeaways there that I see. If you're out there and you're a loan officer and you're listening to this, I think that a T chart, knowing what you love about this business and then knowing the things that if you could have somebody else do, you could go and originate more loans or help
Yeah.
more customers is helpful. Sometimes I see originators that I speak with, and they are the marketer, they are the brand, they are the one that's doing the marketing, and then they want to hire a marketing rep. It's like, well, now you're just going to be the collector of all the data. So I think understanding, do you want to be the marketing person and the relationship person, which I encourage you to be that person and be really good at home loans, not be, I think the ones that I see succeed are really good at marketing. Loan officers that are very good at marketing, very good at relationships, usually are winning. And then the paperwork side of it, you can teach people that side of it, right? And I think the other thing is that Katie touched on that is key when you're looking for somebody to join your team is alignment. And do they align with you on your work ethic? Do they align with you on attitude? Do they bring more energy to you than they take? Because I've noticed that if you bring somebody into it's almost like a little family at work. I mean, you spend as much time at work almost as you do with your family. If you bring somebody into your work family that isn't aligned with you, doesn't have the same work ethic as you, that can cause you crazy too. And so I think there's so many little nuggets there. But if I gave advice to hire an LOA, I'd say do a T chart, decide, what you want and what you need, and then find alignment in the human, right? I want to see somebody that's confident, well-spoken, looks me in the eye, is kind of gritty. Maybe find their gratitude meter, because when you find somebody's gratitude meter, man, you know what drives them on the daily, and work ethic, and what they want. And I love that you asked your LOA, what do you want? What is your career goals? Because then you at least are aligned to help them get there.
Yeah.
And so all of those little nuggets in that section, if somebody's listening to this and they're like, well, I'm thinking about hiring an LOA and I need more loans, so I'm going to have somebody market for me. Well, if you're really good at marketing, you probably need somebody that's very good and detail oriented and can keep things together, right? So I always like to bring that up, and that's how I built my brand, is just really, I built the relationships, and then of course my team helps nurture those, and they're so critical to that. But on the flip side, I didn't do it so that I could have the funnel coming to me, so I work all the paperwork side of it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's some hesitation around hiring somebody, right? Especially if it's coming out of your pocket. I've seen many times where a loan officer is hesitant to bring somebody else on board. They want to continue doing it because they want to hold on to their money, right? And boy, oh boy, I think so many times that they're really missing the boat, because the whole purpose of bringing somebody else on is so that you can stay in your strengths and hopefully build the business, right? And once you build the business, you're not going to worry about that money. That money's already coming in and it's paying for itself. So I think that, yeah, one of the biggest hurdles for people is getting out of that mindset of, oh, I've got to give up money.
Scarcity, like, oh my gosh, I'm losing.
Yeah.
And you have a great partner and life partner in your husband, and I do too. And I talk about this in the book, that I did not want to hire anybody. I looked at it and went, oh my gosh, that's just another, family that I'm committing to, that they have this, I'm committing to another mortgage, somebody else's. And if I fail, that's going to affect them. And so Corey was the one that's like, listen, friend, you need somebody or you're going to implode. Your life, And so I'm grateful to be surrounded by someone that says, hey, you need help and you're going to do this. Even though you're scared, you're going to put your big girl pants on and you're going to do this, and it's going to be all right. And you're going to go continue to grow and build. And so that's very good advice, because I do think sometimes the LO is, tripping over dollars to pick up pennies. When you should just spend the dollar and you make more dollars. Right. And I think that's solid advice.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. So if you have somebody that's getting new in the business, what is your advice for them? They're getting in the business, or they're struggling in the business right now. Because you and I are both blessed not to be, thank the good Lord. But there are people that are struggling in this business and deciding whether they stay or go.
Yeah. The power of social media is so big. And I know we've been talking about this for many, many years. It's something that I have always been very involved with. And it evolves over the years, and, what to do changes, I feel like, every so often, very frequently, I should say. So I do think that you use social media as a marketing tool, right? And if you're using it as a marketing tool and a relationship, how to establish and build relationships, you can create a great business through that. And it's right at your fingertips and it's free. So I would encourage people to utilize social media, telling stories, right? Telling stories about how you've helped somebody achieve their dream, telling stories about how you helped your veteran pay off debt with, a seller credit. These stories connect with people, and you have a free platform of how you can tell those stories, and you can touch a lot of, or reach a lot of people. So I think the power of social media is so big. I do also think that, and I'm going to say it, find that niche product. Maybe it's a DSCR loan and you go after investors. Maybe it's non-QM and you want to focus on self-employed people who don't show income on their tax returns, right? So find whatever speaks to you and be the expert. Be the expert in that product and deliver the message and the education, whether it be through social media, lunch and learns and masterminds, get this information out and make sure that people know that you are the expert, but first become the expert, right? So yeah, I would definitely suggest that to anybody who is struggling. Oftentimes too, in our moments of struggle, how often do we sit and we evaluate our business, right? How are we spending our time? What are we doing to grow that business? And really look in the mirror of, what do I need to change? Is it my mindset? Is it finding new partners? Truly, what is it, right? So getting clear on what needs to happen in order for your business to be where it is. But yeah, niche product, leveraging social media with it being at your fingertips, and then again creating opportunities for you to deliver your message, maybe through these masterminds, lunch and learns, whatever you want to call them, and then bringing people together.
Yeah, and a couple takeaways that I hear you saying is a business plan is key,
Yeah.
and I see business plans when I meet with loan officers that are long-term plans. They'll have strategies, and I'm like, that's a fantastic long-term play. That's
Mhm.
going to get you loans in 6 to 9 months. A short-term, you're going to need some short-term strategies too in
Mhm.
order
Mhm.
to pay the bills, and while those other longer-term strategies build out. And then also distractions. I think that what you brought up is like looking at your day and looking at what you're doing on the daily is very critical, because a lot of
Mhm.
times if you can get rid of some of those distractions, you have more time to do the things that make you money.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks are not. I'm like, okay, cut the water cooler talk. If you go to your office just to chat, you're
Yeah.
probably that's not making you any money. That's not
Yeah.
getting you any loans in the door, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
probably cut the water cooler talk, be
Yeah.
friendly, but you talk about that outside of work, right? I don't know.
Uh-huh.
For you,
Yeah.
you're a you're a busy lady. So I'm assuming that you try to keep yourself on a pretty tight schedule.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The other thing too, the opposite can happen if you don't go to the office and you're sitting at home. What are you doing at home? Right?
Yes.
Are you
Yes.
playing with the dogs? Are you doing laundry? And you're not even realizing you're doing these things, right? And maybe you need to show up at the office because you're feeding off of that energy because you're hearing so and so on the phone with that borrower or that realtor, right? It fires you up, it lights you up. So yeah, just reflecting on how you're doing business, where you're doing business from, especially since COVID, right? When we were all working from home and everything. Whoo, maybe we've created some rough habits on,
Habits.
yeah,
Good
growing our
point.
business. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. I always say if you are feeling depressed in a home environment, you probably either need to find them, and some people work from home now, right? There's so many remote offices where they don't have an off at home base. Find a means through either Teams or Zoom, and do a dialing call with other people in your
Mhm.
organization, or if you eat the frog, so to speak, you don't want to make those calls, or there's things that you don't want to do. Find a tribe around you to help
Mhm.
support you, and you can do that through, thank God, modern technology allows us to have calls like this. Who
Mhm.
knew? Probably before COVID that was not as acceptable, but I do that a lot. My agents are busy, and so I use Teams and Zoom a lot to meet with agent partners, and they're appreciative. They didn't have to drive to a coffee shop to meet me or come to my office or vice versa. Those are always awesome.
Mhm.
But I found that they're busy too. So they are accepting of using technology to help you have those meetings. So figure out a way, if you are in your house and that is your office. I during COVID, I told the team, they're like, hey, you get up, you get dressed, you put your makeup on every day, you're putting work clothes on. I'm like, yeah, because I feel better when I
Yeah.
get up and get
Yeah.
going in the day, versus if I'm in my sweats and my Uggs are on my feet, I feel like I should be on my couch. And so
Mhm.
I think that that's super solid advice, is if you
Mhm.
are finding yourself in that Uggs and sweats and laundry and dog feeding, you probably need to get your butt to the office. And
Yeah.
if you aren't feeling like your best self, those are the days I need to get dressed up the best, and
Mhm.
you know, so that my brain catches up with my body, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah. Really. Yeah, you're right. Yep. I'll give another suggestion on what has worked well for me. So I do work with a lot of team leads and
Yeah,
teams.
yeah.
And sometimes what I'll do is if I feel like I need or I want to create something inspiring, right? Or I just want to pour into my realtor partners because I know they're struggling to get business. Create a little contest with them, right? So hop in a group chat. If you're not in a group chat, create the group chat, or if there's already one, put it in the group chat that says, hey guys, first one to make 5 connections to their database today, whatever. But let's all challenge each other to reach out to your database, do pop buys, whatever it is. If you initiate that, you will have so much respect from other people just because you're having them raise their game, right? And a lot of times, if they're reaching out to their people and their realtors, you're going to get that business in return. But if you participate in these things and helping them grow their business, because they want the accountability too. A lot of times they don't have somebody holding them accountable. So if you can be that person, it can be very powerful.
That's so valid as a good partner of a real estate, somebody that's in real estate. You're right. They don't have a boss.
Yeah.
And so if you can be a good accountability partner, I think that that's so key. And it does come back tenfold when you become that real. And I love that you're like, well, we'll just run a little contest today, because for the most part, healthy competition is good competition, right? And
Yeah.
so that's good stuff. Plus, then you do things that maybe you were dreading doing because now you've laid the gauntlet and you're like, okay, I have to get my life together and I actually have to do this too, because I've already laid it down for other people. And so I love that you brought that up as a possible option. I'm going to talk to my team about it today, because I know a few people that we could absolutely do that with. That'd be a ton of fun, and they would. And healthy competition is a good competition.
Yeah.
Well, in closing, anything else you want to share that maybe I didn't hit on? Or
No, this has been great. Again, thank you for having me. It's a huge honor, and I respect you so much, Mandi. And I love that you're pouring into our community, right? Helping other loan officers and giving them valuable information. It's a true good servant. So keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate you. And thank you, my new friend. And thank you for being on Origination Boost Podcast. And I'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me. Bye.